Today I'm going to show you an action thriller film titled Point of No Return. Be ready for spoilers ahead. The story kicks off with a group of thieves preparing for a midnight heist, carrying the body of their victim. The junkies arrive at a drugstore owned by a friend's parents. When one of the gang is too slow opening the lock with a key, the gang's leader smashes the lock off with an axe. However, among them is a maniac-looking young woman named Maggie, who seems uninterested in the burglary. She's going through drug withdrawal and complains of desperately needing a new fix. The store owner and his wife have been awakened by the looting of the store. Despite his wife's pleas to report the robbery to the police, the drugstore owner loads a shotgun and prepares to confront the burglars. One of the gang members appears to understand the store's layout and the location of the drugs, but they cannot find what they're looking for. Maggie, in pain from her withdrawal, slowly sags and slumps into a sitting position on the floor, leaning against a display. The drugstore owner confronts the thieves but stares in disbelief at seeing his son among the gang. As soon as the local police arrive, the robbery escalates into a brutal gunfight, resulting in the deaths of all Maggie's accomplices, leaving her as the sole survivor. She is apparently deep in a drug withdrawal-induced psychosis. The officer removes her headphones through which she'd been listening to music. Unfazed by the situation, Maggie suddenly jams the barrel of the gun under his jaw and pulls the trigger, killing him. Consequently, they throw Maggie into prison, still unaware of the gravity of her actions. During interrogation, Maggie remains silent until she is slapped. Refusing to accept the slap, she fights back, disregarding the potential consequences. As police drag her away, a man watches from the mezzanine. The judge convicts Maggie of capital murder for killing the officer in court and sentences her to death by lethal injection. Fueled by disappointment and hysteria, Maggie refuses to bow down to authority and is literally dragged to prison, and the same man who was in the station is again watching from the courtroom seats. As Maggie is strapped to the gurney for her execution, she tearfully begs they wait for her mother to arrive. Despite her pleas, the needle is inserted into a vein in her arm and drugs injected. Maggie loses control of her bladder as the chemicals take effect and her eyes sag closed. From the observation window, yet again, the same mysterious man is watching. Hours later, Maggie awakens in a nondescript room, where a well-dressed, hard-looking man named Bob tells her that, although officially dead and buried, she is in the custody of a shadowy government agency that is giving her a second chance in life. Maggie is naturally very suspicious about what Bob and his superiors want from her in exchange for her life. He coldly tells her that for a start, she needs to learn such basics as standing up straight and speaking properly before she would be instructed in languages and computers, things that would enable her to do some good for the country. When Maggie asks what would happen if she refuses, Bob reminds her, rather matter-of-factly, of the location of her grave. They can easily put her into it for real this time. He gives her a strict one-night period to think the offer over. Bob returns to Maggie's room in the morning to get her decision. Looking through the peephole, he sees Maggie back in her bed. However, a chair hits him in the back as he enters the room. After taking Bob hostage, Maggie demands that he release her. She moves through an office area toward the main exit, while Bob instructs all the employees in the compound to return to their desks and refrain from making any threatening moves. Bob calmly asks Maggie for his gun back. Maggie seems about to comply when she suddenly pushes the barrel into her mouth and pulls the trigger. Bob reacts swiftly and grabs the gun, knocks her down, and then shoots her in the leg to slow her down. Later, Bob returns to meet Maggie and understands that she has picked up an interest in his offer from yesterday. As a result, Maggie is taken to attend several classes, including brain sharpening classes, shooting classes, and self-defense lessons, and later, the most challenging of her lessons, social manners and etiquette, posture and grace of movement, and proper use of language and grammar, all under the stern but caring eye of one of the instructors, Amanda. Bob goes to see Maggie in her room. Her reports are coming along excellently, and she is doing well in her lessons. But with all her progress, Maggie is going stir-crazy, confined inside the center, and asks desperately to take just a short walk outside. Bob reveals that he was once in Maggie's position as a recruit and experienced the same challenges she is currently facing. But he can't let her outside. Maggie starts to become rebellious again, and during a firearms exercise, she indiscriminately shoots all the targets for fun, both the bad guys and the innocents. At a dinner lesson, she becomes frustrated with the use of a knife and fork and finally starts to eat using her hands. Bob and his supervisor, Kaufman, notice and are talking about her, and the boss is visibly upset. Bob insists he can bring Maggie back around, reminding Kaufman that a young woman operative is needed in the field. Kaufman informs Bob that Maggie is only receiving 6 months of lessons and training, and if there is no noticeable improvement after that, she will be killed. Under Amanda's tutelage, Maggie quickly masters her lessons. She comes down the stairs, elegantly attired in a black evening dress, looking stately and beautiful. Bob even extended an invitation for her to join him for dinner. However, this wasn't just an ordinary dinner. Maggie was given a gift that turned out to contain a pistol and its magazine and handled her first mission. She has to kill a foreign diplomat in a crowded restaurant. Then she'll escape through the toilet window to the courtyard where a car will be waiting. Upon Bob leaving, Maggie ruthlessly killed the target and fled the scene while being chased by guards. But the toilet window that Bob told her about turned out to be blocked by a brick wall. Confused about where to go, Maggie doubles back and makes it into the restaurant's kitchen, pursued by armed men who indiscriminately begin shooting, killing the kitchen staff. They have Maggie pinned down, but her return fire kills several of the bodyguards and keeps them at bay. One of the men loads a portable rocket into his rifle. Desperate now, Maggie spots a laundry chute and dives into it just ahead of the rocket and explosion. Escaping from the restaurant, Maggie runs out into the rainy night and flings her gun into the tidal basin. Maggie runs back to the center with only one goal on her mind: to find Bob. She's livid at him for setting a lethal trap for her. However, Bob explains that he deliberately covered the escape route with bricks to test Maggie, and as a matter of fact, she has passed the mission. Maggie has achieved her freedom and will leave the compound the following day. Calming down, Maggie gives Bob a sharp, semi-passionate kiss and says it's the last one she'll give him. Bob tells Kaufman she's ready to be a field operative, who sternly warns Maggie that he considers her a dangerous loose cannon. Bob instructed Maggie to blend into the city and gave her a fake identity as Nina. Armed with limited money, Maggie rented a modest place to live. She then went to buy groceries at the supermarket. However, Maggie didn't know what to buy and could only follow what others were taking. Just as Maggie was about to make her payment, a customer named JP captured her attention. So much so that, just hours after they met at Maggie's place, they shared an intimate moment. By morning, Maggie's life appeared normal due to JP's deep affection for her, and JP was unaware of Maggie's involvement in a state mission. So he helps her fix up her apartment and takes a number of photographs of her. Maggie is lying with JP in her bed one morning when her phone rings. It's Bob on the other side calling her to an operative assignment at the nearby hotel. Maggie promptly proceeded to check in, but upon reaching the lobby, she discovered that the hotel staff had been hidden. Maggie is given a hotel-made uniform to be used as her disguise. One agent is busy with communication equipment in the basement, while the others just wait for the next course of action. Suddenly, a call comes in from a room, requesting drinks. The man quickly prepares the drinks, but he also plants a bug in the bottom of the teapot. Once the drinks were ready for delivery, Maggie, looking a little nervous, delivers the room service tray as a man in a suit stands outside the doorway, quickly frisking her to ensure she is unarmed. She brings the tray inside the heavily guarded rooms. However, the guards were unaware of any danger she was carrying and even signed the receipt for her. Maggie unexpectedly completed the mission when she returned to the basement. She exited the hotel with a smile, just as a fiery explosion tore through the hotel's top floor. The headquarters are thrilled with Maggie's accomplishment, so Bob meets her for dinner at her house that evening. On the dining table, Bob unexpectedly presents them with 2 tickets to New Orleans for the Mardi Gras festival. Grateful for this kindness, Maggie felt relieved because she could escape from the state mission. Maggie and JP felt immense gratitude for this journey, akin to a honeymoon. However, when she calls room service for a meal, the happiness is cut short when the call is connected to Bob, who tells her that the bathroom cabinet has a hidden compartment. When Maggie checks it, she finds a headset and walkie-talkie and sets them up. He tells her to look in the drawers under the sink, and she finds a high-power rifle with a sophisticated silencer barrel and scope, assembling them quickly and expertly. Maggie is assigned an assassination mission. Thinking this was just a vacation, it turned out to be a brutal moment unknown to JP. Over the radio, Bob instructed Maggie to eliminate her target across the street. JP, who has decided to propose to Maggie, is quite annoyed, wondering why she was taking so long in the bathroom. Maggie stifled her tears to concentrate on Bob's instructions, successfully eliminating the target. Maggie was so swift after the mission that even JP failed to recognize the hidden weapon. A few days later, Maggie confronts Bob at the operation headquarters in Washington. She tells him she's had enough and wants out, but Bob sternly rebuffs her, warning her that out doesn't exist in their field. She tries to appeal to his sense of humanity, insisting that she is no longer the same cold-hearted murderer who he saved from execution. However, Bob just hands Maggie her next target, a wealthy Arab businessman who bought an atomic weapons program from corrupt officials. The job entails impersonating his girlfriend to get onto his estate, then killing him and destroying his computer containing secret data on sensitive nuclear information he's peddling to the Middle Eastern countries. Maggie, feeling disappointed, drops the dossier in a trash bin on her way out. Later, Bob meets Maggie at her home and hands her the dossier back. Relenting on his initial position, he quietly tells her that if she completes the job, he will try his utmost to help her in return. Maggie and Beth pose as stylists who have a scheduled appointment to take care of the businessman's wife's hair and nails. They discreetly try to offer her some drugged jasmine tea on the terrace, but the woman refuses, stating she doesn't drink tea. Maggie, forced to improvise, waits until she puts her hands in Beth's, covers her mouth, and injects her with a knockout drug. Regrettably, a gunfight ensues as the bodyguards become aware of the situation. As the 2 bodyguards meet their deaths, Beth sustains injuries. She calls Kaufman to report in, and Maggie is horrified to learn from Beth that Kaufman is calling in a cleaner. The cleaner arrives to salvage the operation and swiftly places the 2 dead guards, along with a security agent he killed during his entry into the building, in the hot tub. Despite the woman's unconscious state, he places her inside and proceeds to pour strong acid into the tubs as part of the cleaning process. Knowing that the job should have resulted in no casualties, Beth is horrified, but the cleaner silences her with a bullet to the heart. Maggie, getting scared, knows that she can't afford any more screw-ups in finishing the job. She poses as the businessman's wife, and the cleaner takes her to her next target. Back at the headquarters, Kaufman informs Bob that they brought in a cleaner to prevent the ongoing issues in the operation from escalating, and they've also given him orders to kill Maggie once she completes the task. Maggie, disguised as the housewife, gains entrance to the businessman's house and pulls her gun, ordering him to go to his computer and bring up his nuclear program. Bob rushes out of the headquarters building and into his car. Maggie begins copying all the data. After finishing copying the data, she fries all of the computer circuits and the hard drive. She commands her target to lie down, indicating her intention to kill him. When Maggie's hand shakes, the man notices that she is struggling to carry out her orders. His survival instincts kick in, and he leaps up, tackling Maggie to the ground and wrestling for control of her gun while he yells for his chief bodyguard. But Maggie manages to hit the target in the head and then fights her way past several guards to leap into the cleaner's waiting car. As the main gate closes to block the exit, more guards converge firing. However, the cleaner veers off the main path, breaches a side fence, enters a road, and flees. Maggie looks at the cleaner and realizes that he's planning to kill her. Reacting swiftly, she bashes him with her purse and grabs the handbrake for the car, careening it out of control and leaving it half-perched on a bend in the road over a steep incline. The cleaner hits Maggie in her face, knocking her out of the car. He leaps down after her and engages each other in a brutal fight. Maggie crawls into a shallow space between the car and the ground, and the cleaner tries to get at her with a knife. Maggie lashes out with her boot, and the car tips further over the edge of the road. They struggle until the car finally slides over the edge of the road, breaking the cleaner's grip and crushing him completely as it slides all the way down the incline, taking him with it. Moments later, Bob arrives on the scene alongside a fire crew. They show him where Victor's car is, but there's no sign of Maggie. Meanwhile, Maggie has managed to make it back home and takes a shower. She goes to her bed, finding JP seemingly asleep. Bob arrives at Maggie's home and is let in by JP, who hands him the disc Maggie was supposed to get for him. JP tells Bob that Maggie has left home and taken none of her personal belongings with her, not even her purse, nothing but the clothes on her back. Bob retrieves one of Maggie's Nina Simone records and commences his journey, while Maggie observes from a nearby side street. Shivering briefly, she starts to walk down the street, but as she walks, Bob suddenly pulls back and looks intently at her. He calls Kaufman on his mobile phone, informing him that there was a severe car accident last night that resulted in the cleaner's death, but they managed to salvage all the necessary information. Bob seems to struggle for a long moment, but finally tells Kaufman that Maggie is dead as well. Maggie half turns and notices Bob's car driving off, knowing that he spotted her and recognized her but has left her to gain her freedom. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos like this.